Welcome back, everybody. So this one's been a long time coming, but I have Skylar from Surfprep. Welcome aboard, man.
Hey, thank you, Eric. I know it's been a long time coming, getting our schedules to blend and to work together. It's been a challenge, but I'm honored to be on this little segment with you here.
Well, I'm glad to have you. I've been really wanting to have some different guys in the sanding industry, and I'm definitely, obviously, a Surfprep user and have been for a very long time. And so it's an honor to have you on as well. So I just want to talk a little bit about how I kind of came into Surfprep and how we met and the history of that. So it was I think right after you guys developed the first electric sander I had a friend of mine, Bob Close, up in Wisconsin. He saw the ad after I think you guys won that first award and said, "Hey, Eric, you need to go get this sander." And I go and look at it and I check it and I'm like, yeah. And like the next day I called you all up and I'm like, how do I get this thing? And you're like, how did you find us? And then we had, I ended up meeting Michael Morello, which is a mutual friend of yours. And he came out to my shop, and kind of the rest is history from there. With you guys, completely revolutionized the way that I do sanding today. And pretty much what I know about sanding has come from your employees or someone that is known through you. So I'm very appreciative of that, because basically it reduced the amount of sanding that I was doing, and I'm getting better finishes and less prep time and all that. So that's kind of the quick backstory for me with you guys.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. It's funny how people's paths cross, in life, and then especially in a business environment in your business life too. And yeah, you're right. Michael has been a longtime friend for 30 some years, and it was pretty cool that that connection I had with him when he moved to Tennessee, and he made that connection with you, and then the other connections that you had in the north, and people were sharing different things with you, and it all just kind of melted together. And what was really exciting was being able to actually meet you in person and spend time with you last summer at the AWFS show in Vegas. That was a blast.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Well, so why don't you just give us a little background on, yourself and how Surfprep kind of became, and the whole, really the foam abrasive revolution, I guess, so to speak, that's going on now. It's like it's really in the past 2 years just really caught fire, and it's everywhere.
Yeah, it is. All of us have a story, isn't that true? It's like we all have a story. I graduated college in 1985. I started working for a manufacturer of coated abrasives, and I began getting on the road and visiting people. And I learned real quickly that in a position of professional sales, if all you were focused on was making money, you probably weren't going to make a lot of money. And I remember a story way back. A guy said his first day in sales, he said he got 3 orders. The first one was get out, stay out, and don't come back. So if you have the wrong approach, the wrong intention on going out and doing these kinds of things, you're not going to be successful. Realize that, man, I've got to figure out when I go into a shop like your shop, Eric, if all I'm doing is talking about myself and my foam or my sanding disc, that type of thing, and I'm not trying to figure out where you are bleeding as a shop owner, or it could be a factory with 500 people producing furniture. If I wasn't trying to figure out where they were struggling and bleeding, and if I didn't have a solution to support them with my products, goods, services, whatever it was, there was no game. There was no ball game, because there was no interest at that point. So I learned really quick that if I did that, if I focused on helping people, I would then have long-term security over the course of my lifetime. And in 1999, I began repairing tools. I began repairing random orbital air sanders. And the reason I did this is I had factories in Southern California that would have 50 drop stations on air sanders. And I'd go into maintenance rooms, and in the maintenance rooms, there'd be 150, 200 air sanders sitting in a box. So that was a part of that company bleeding. They had all these sanders in a box. They weren't being used. And what I discovered was that they could be repaired real easily. So I began doing that. This crazy business started in my garage until my neighbor kicked me out of my garage because I was running my air compressor till 2 o'clock in the morning. He's next door going, Skylar, what's that? Whap, 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 whap. It was my compressor. And it was crazy. It then moved into a storage unit, like a 200 square foot storage unit. Then it bounced into a 1,400 square foot little strip center building. And then we've been blessed along the way. It then jumped into a 6,000 square foot building. And then we're here in Lake Elsinore. Now we got a building in North Carolina. So that's kind of the background. It's a real kind of a snapshot, if you will. I just paid attention to the industry. I paid attention to the products. I paid attention to the tools. I started to see some paradigm shifts taking place. And I started to recognize and understand that there were different abrasive grains that were feeding over from the metalworking side of things into the woodworking side of things. And it spurred on that creativity, that innovation. I'm like thinking, what's going on, man? How can a ceramic grain be utilized on a substrate like cherry, maple, alder, hickory, walnut, MDF, high density MDFs, polymers, carbon fibers. And so it just started steamrolling. This building I'm sitting in right now, I opened faced spray booth, and that's where that started. That's where all that, I guess, that chemistry and everything, all the juices were flowing, and I was starting to see that, hey, I got a hold of something now. So that's kind of the early beginning of that there. With Surfprep, Mary and I bought the company in December 2003, and actually the company Dixon Enterprises was a supplier to me. I was buying and selling, multiple millions of sanding blocks, two-sided pads, single-sided pads to furniture manufacturers all over California. George Dixon and a gentleman by the name of Jack Woody Weiss invented this right here. So that 1-inch block that everybody will see at a paint store, Menards, Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, this 1-inch foam block was invented in the mid-'70s. And it was, oddly enough, Eric, it was invented for the fingernail industry.
Yeah.
It's crazy. A huge portion of our facility here is devoted to that product. But and then from that, there was an evolution, and it went to the industrial markets because a lot of people were grabbing abrasives. Back 30 years ago, this was a very common, a 9x11 sheet, folded in half and then quartered. People were wrapping this around a wood block. They were putting it on a sled. They were using it, and the abrasive grain was on the skin. And this was the way it was done. Well, the sanding block revolutionized that and gave somebody better dexterity to be able to hold and grip a block now. And a lot of people were straight line sanding, sealer sanding, scuff sanding in preparation for another coat of finish. And then some people were using it in raw wood sanding too. So that's kind of, that's where that came from. And it's funny, the original foam center was a carpet foam. So if anybody out there watching this, if they've ever been on their knees, slamming that stretcher into the wall, and that original red or chip block carpet foam or whatever, that was the original inside of the product, the actual inner part. In 2005, one of those raw material manufacturers that George had been importing containers of product from England from, in 2005, I got something that looked like this. And it was mailed to me in a package, and it was from our factory in England. And it was a foam, a 5mm foam, and it was a disc, and it had nothing on it. This here is about 20 years old there. The factory, the guy there, Jeff Cooper, he called me up and he said, Skylar, I mailed this to 2 people in the world. One guy's in Belgium, and there's a guy in Lake Elsinore. That's you. And I was like, Jeff, why did you put flocking on the back of the 5mm foam? And why is it a 6-inch disc? He said, we got a guy here And this is really funny because it's like everything comes full circle. He said he was refinishing his kitchen, and he had an old DIY sander at his house, and he was going to start scuff sanding everything, I guess. I don't know the full story on it, Eric, but I'm assuming he had 9x11 sheets. He probably had all different types of, different abrasives. He said he put this disc, and this is silicon carbide. You can kind of see that because of the reflectivity of the light on the grain. And he said he sanded his kitchen with it. I'm like, no, there's no way. There's no way. And he goes, I don't know what to tell you. He said, you've got the 8 discs. We made them on our maker. And he said, can you run them? All you do is furniture and cabinetry and all that and, other things. And he said, can you run them? I took it out back here. I ran it. I put it on a sander. It was the most, it talk about a paradigm shift and a change. Change is, people don't like change.
No.
If you confuse somebody, the least, just the most little, a confused mind will always say no. So if you show something to someone and they're like, oh my gosh, what is this? It's just like, no, I can't deal with this. So I began, I went to my, I've got a guy here that makes doors, huge manufacturer that makes doors in the beginning then. Went and picked up a load of doors, went to a molding store, picked up moldings. I just started grabbing everything I could. I have a friend, Johnny, here years ago. He was a local Graco rep. I go, Johnny, I hold sanders. Dude, I've never done this. I've never, sprayed anything with a gun. Can you come over and help me spray? We sat out there, Eric, for hours after work, weekends. We sprayed doors. I was prep sanding before we were putting stains or paints on. I was just doing everything I could with this product. And I found out that there was something incredible here. It was like, it worked. And the thing I wanted was, I called Jeff immediately. I said, Jeff, I don't want to use silicon carbide. He's like, that's what you scuff sand with. I go, yes, sir, I know that. But I said, I don't want silicon carbide. I said, make me something different. And then they started sending me, these guys. Well, what we did is we took something and we changed it so dramatically that we put a ceramic AO on there. And I can't get into all of the finer details of really how that's done, only because of agreements and things with these companies. Sure. But we put that ceramic AO on there. I took a rack of shaker doors, and on that one crazy pad, we sanded like 60 doors. That was the birth of Surfprep. And I was going crazy. I'm kind of known to be a little crazy anyway, but I was going crazy. I wasn't sleeping. I was sanding. I was just going nuts. And I was fired up. I knew I had a hold of something. I would be remiss if I didn't say, I did make a phone call. In one day in my office, I was reading an article about a lady that was going to be doing a seminar at IWF in Atlanta on finishing. And it was all spraying, and it was all the different top coats, primers, all this kind of stuff. And she was going to touch on sandpaper. And my personality is, I saw the phone number in the article, I call it up, and I said, hello, may I speak with Diane? And she's like, this is Diane. Hi, how are you? I'm like, I'm good. Is this Diane Shattuck? Yes, it is. Who is this? I'm like, well, this is Skylar. And I kind of explained to her, Eric, what I just shared with you. And I said, Diane, I understand you're going to do this training in Atlanta. I'd love for you to see my sanding system for prepping surfaces. Oh, I'd love to do that. When can you come to Tampa? It was crazy, Eric. I was just like going, oh my gosh, all this work, all this time, all this energy. And I'm calling someone that's never met me, never seen me, never heard from me. And the joy in her being, in her, it was just the perfect timing and everything. I got on a plane. I went out there. Diane was used to using all this kind of stuff.
Sure.
She had never used a sanding pad. And when I landed in Tampa and I went into that lab and I showed her the 3x4 sander with a piece of foam hanging on it, she goes, I will never use that.
That's funny.
So here I am, I'm here, you know, and then, but she was smiling and she was welcoming. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I just flew here. And she's like, I don't think it'll work. And she said, come on, let's go back in the spray booth. I was there, I think 3 hours. And Diane said, can you leave all this with me? And I said, yes, ma'am. And over the next 2 weeks, she used it all. And at her, she didn't call me up. She said, Skylar, man, can I use this in my talk at IWF? And Erica hung up the phone and I cried.
Wow.
It was incredible. Diane is a very important individual to us. She has become a friend, you know, a family friend. She is one of those people that she'll go out and lay her life in a shop, her everything, her skill set, like you, like so many others that are out there. They'll go out there and they'll spend the time and they'll work with someone so that they can make their life easier. And that's where you get that long-term security. But yeah, it was crazy, man. That started from that point on. I was gone 2 to 3 years in a row. I was gone 200 days a year. Eric, I don't know. I'd be lying to you if I tried to tell you how many shops I've been in. I could give you that number because I'm very analytical. But it's in the thousands. It's in the thousands. I've had the honor to be able to train over 400 distributor sales reps that work for cabinet hardware distributors, industrial distributorships, all that kind of stuff. So it was a trek. It was crazy. And it was just a few short years ago that I met Brian Kuhn and Lewis, and I met everybody kind of in that arena, that arena where people are sitting there going, I just want to get this work done. You know, when you go to a retail hardware store, or you're going to get a little better service probably at a paint store, you know, where somebody will spend some time with you. But at a Menards or a Home Depot, you might not get that personal attention. And so I understood that, man, there's a whole nother sphere of people out there that are saying, I need help. I need help. I'm doing these jobs. How can I get through these jobs quicker with less stress in my life? Let's face it, sanding's not fun.